From the studios of Foxborough Cable Access, located in the center of Foxborough, Massachusetts, you are watching Around Foxborough.
Welcome to another episode of Around Foxborough. My name is Julie Love. I'm your host. Today we have a wonderful guest. His name is Dave Cavell. He's running for Congress for 4th District in Massachusetts. Welcome, Dave.
Julie, thank you so much. I just wish I could be in Foxborough physically with you right now, but having done the podcast with you last week and now getting to come back and be on the show with you, I'm so grateful to be here.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for your time today. And then please tell our audience your background.
Yeah. So yes, before I was running to represent us in Congress, I actually started out as a 4th grade public school teacher. That was my born and raised right here in the 4th Congressional District in Brookline. Met my wife at Tufts, and my very first job was as a public school teacher. And what I saw when I was teaching was a level of inequality that I found unacceptable. I had 10-year-olds, half of whom had asthma in my class. And to me, that was wrong. I felt like those students had been failed by a system that had not looked out for them. And so I wanted to get into public service to do something about it. So that's why I went to work for Governor Deval Patrick when he was governor. That's why I went to law school and ended up working as a speechwriter for President Obama and First Lady Obama in the White House. And I spent the last 2.5 years before this race working as Assistant Attorney General of Massachusetts and Senior Advisor to Maura Healey, our wonderful Attorney General. So, I've had the opportunity to really be on the front lines of so many of these issues that we care about in Foxborough and across the 4th District. And when I saw that we were going to need a new member of Congress, I decided to run because obviously this pandemic hadn't happened. And so obviously the world has changed to a degree, but I felt then and feel now as if we need somebody who knows this work, for whom this work is not new, for whom this job might be new, but all the pieces of it would not be new, so that I could stand up and fight for us and for our communities and for our families right away.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that. And how can people find about you more? Do you have a website? Do you have social media?
Yes. So we've got a whole bunch of ways. We've got the website, which is just davecavell.com. We try to make it easy. We've got the Facebook page, which is Cavell, the number 4 Congress. My Twitter account, David F. Cavell. And a whole host of other ways to engage with us. And then the last one I want to talk about is it's our new digital door knocking program. And I know that we've talked about this a little bit, Jury, but it's a site with videos where we try to figure out, how do we still talk to people in the 4th District about our shared future? How do we still bring people into this work and into this campaign and talk about how I think we still have reason to be hopeful about that future if we make investments now and work together? And so we launched this website. It's the first of its kind. Actually, after a couple of days, the Biden campaign reached out to us to talk about it. And it allows anybody to come on, ask me a question, and then I respond via video. And I film a response that we post and answer any question that anybody has for me.
Wow, that's really different and exciting way.
Yeah, it's been hard, Jerry, to figure out how do we still reach out to people at a time where we want to keep you and all of the people watching right now. We want to keep you safe. We want to keep you healthy while we're still talking about the issues that we all care about, and talking about how to invest in education, how to combat the opioid crisis, how to prevent the climate crisis, how to do the work that I think really needs doing right now. And a thing I want to mention about the website is it's the only one in this race that is not just in English, but my website is also fully available and has been fully translated by fluent speakers of these languages into Spanish and into Portuguese. We're also looking into translating it to other languages, because the 4th District and communities like Foxborough, there are a lot of people who don't speak English at home as a first language, and we want to talk to them too. This campaign should be for everyone. That's how we view it.
Well, thank you for sharing. So what do you think that separate you from other candidates for Congress for this race?
It's a good question. And I'll start by saying there are good people who are running in this Democratic primary to represent us in Congress. But I think that the distinctions here are actually very clear. It's great that there are a lot of people who want to have this job. But what I think we need right now is somebody who knows how to do this job, somebody who is ready to do this job on day one. And so, instead of just caring about the climate crisis, I've actually helped investigate ExxonMobil and sue the Trump EPA when I was in the Attorney General's office. I was in the White House when we were passing the Paris Climate Accords. Instead of just saying that education is important and we need to protect students and teachers in schools, I've actually been a public school teacher. I've actually seen up close the consequences when we don't invest in our schools, when we don't support students, when we don't make the investments that we need to make. On every one of these issues that matters to us in this race and in this district, I'm the one that's actually worked on it. And I think the other distinction too, Jury, is, and this is why folks like, some of my former colleagues from the Obama White House, Ben Rhodes and John Favreau, but also, select board members in Brookline, and my friend Joanne Peterson from Learn to Cope in Taunton, and so many others have supported me in this campaign, is because it's not good enough to just go to Congress and vote the right way. We need to lead the right way. We need to not just talk about these things, but we need to get these things done. And I shouldn't be coming back here in 2 or 4 years saying, well, I went to Congress and we didn't get these things done, but send me back and we're going to keep working. No, we've run out of time for that. We're in a real crisis as a country. And so I think we need somebody who can explain not just the whats of what we're doing, but the whys, who can build a coalition to get these things done. And that's why I'm running.
Well, thank you for sharing. And then you have on a website, I believe, that education policy and opioid crisis pieces that I was able to honor to read a little bit about it. And previous conversation that we had prior to this TV show that you mentioned about a student who was sleeping in a classroom, and then you went to find out why. And then would you please share that student, if you don't mind, and then leading to why that maybe moment led you to running for the Congress, and also the education policy that you are singing on your website?
Yeah. So, exactly as you mentioned, Jerry, I was teaching 4th grade. As I mentioned, I had 32 students, and one of them would come into class in the morning and put his head down and fall asleep. And for weeks, I tried to figure out, what was going on, because here's a 10-year-old. Clearly something's wrong at home if he's coming in and sleeping during class. And I would ask him, what's going on? What can we do? I want to make sure you're still doing your work, because he wasn't doing his work. He was too tired. And so I knew something was going on. So I knew something wasn't right. And eventually he, after weeks, let me walk him home. And that's when I figured out that he and his father were homeless. And they were sleeping outside every night. And he would stay up at night to guard their things, to make sure that he and his father didn't lose the few possessions they still had. And that broke my heart. And it still makes me a little emotional to think about it, because here was a 10-year-old in the wealthiest country in the world who was sleeping under a bridge every night. And how could he possibly get ahead? How could he possibly have the future he deserved to have without the support that he needed? And I thought that was fundamentally wrong. And so that's why I decided to get into public service, because it wasn't just about him and that one classroom. I didn't want any student in America to have to go through that ever again. I didn't want any classroom to have a student in it that was homeless or that didn't have enough food to eat at night. So that's why I went to work for the people I worked for. And that's why this education plan, as you point out, it's called the Horace Mann Plan for Education. And Horace Mann, as we all know, was from Franklin, Massachusetts, which is right in the 4th Congressional District, and helped really found public education in America. And so our plan calls for a few things: universal pre-K, investing in K-12 education, closing technology gaps, and making sure every student can learn in a safe way right now, because teachers across the 4th District are going to get laid off if we don't get direct aid from the federal government to cities and towns right now. It calls for moving toward tuition-free public colleges and universities, because my wife and I are in $300,000 of student loan debt, and so many families watching this program probably are as well. That's wrong. We shouldn't be bankrupting a generation. So it calls for a whole host of things. And I think most of all, what it calls for is investing in education, investing in teachers, investing in students in a way that we haven't done in too long in this country, in my opinion.
Yes. And then on your website, you talked about hedge fund, like federal, like how they can tie up to prevent or maybe promote the free higher education, even like pre-K. Would you please tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. So, this is, so are you talking about how to fund the programs?
Yeah, like how would you, as a congressman, tackle this funding or federal, like maybe some tapping into federal?
Yeah. So, some of this is I think that budgets are choices, and often they're reflections of our values. And if you say that you care if you say that you care about something, show that to me. Show that to me in terms of how you fund it and how you pay for it, and really show that you care about it. And I think that that's the work that we have to do. So, in these federal relief packages of multi-trillion dollars, I think it's really unfortunate and unacceptable that enough of that didn't go to schools and go to cities and towns to close gaps and make sure that we're not laying off teachers left and right. I mean, that's wrong, and that will fail our students. I think another thing is, frankly, I was disappointed that the Trump tax cuts in the last era were given to the wealthiest corporations and the wealthiest people in this country. That when President Bush left office, the federal estate tax was set to kick in at $7 million. If you and your family had an estate that was worth $7 million, well, then the estate tax would kick in. Now, the federal estate tax doesn't kick in until your estate is worth $22 million. To me, that's crazy. This would only impact about 14,000 families in this country, but just resetting that tax rate to what it was during the Bush administration would help us fund schools so that every student in this country could go to a great school. That seems like an investment worth making.
Well, thank you for sharing. And then how about the opioid crisis? Like, what is your plan when you want to become Congress?
Yeah, so before I ran for Congress, before I announced this campaign, I had already been working with a lot of families in the Attorney General's office because of a case against a company called Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family. They make a drug called OxyContin. And this company and this drug has devastated this country. We lose 5 people every single day in Massachusetts alone to an opioid overdose. And thousands more in Massachusetts and across the country are trapped in these cycles of addiction and substance use. And it's horrifying. And I worked with so many of these families, so many grandparents who are raising grandchildren, so many parents who have buried children, so many families who don't know what to do and where to turn. And so that's why I made a promise to these families that the first thing I would get to work on in Congress is the opioid crisis. And I'm not going to break that promise. So on the website, you can go on and see our plan. It's called the One Plan. And it does a few things. The first is it really gets the aid and resources to these families that they have been begging for years and promised by many people and never delivered. The second thing is it funds prevention education. And this is something that's very important to me, Jury. And your background and your inspiring story, I think, is an example of what's possible when you actually support young people. Even young people who are in difficult situations can always turn it around if they have the right support, if they have people that look out for them and care about them and tell them so. And so, that's what this program would do. 90% of people who struggle with substance uses start using before they turn 18. But we don't have a statewide prevention education program. We don't get resources and evidence-based tools into schools and classrooms to help young people stay safe and healthy. So this was a plan that we launched in the Attorney General's office. It's in 300 middle schools, but I think it should be in every school in this country. And so that's what the plan would do, is it would fund it. So the plan does a few other things to make sure that other companies can't come along and cheat the system and spread deadly drugs into our communities and really help make sure that we can afford life-saving drugs and all the rest. But this plan recognizes the scope of this crisis and actually tries to address it.
Wow, thank you very much. And then what are the other plans that you have in terms of the campaigning focus other than the education policy and opioid office?
Yeah, well, if folks go on the website, again, it's davecavell.com. You'll see the most comprehensive set of plans in this race. And I think it reflects the fact that, again, this job would be new for any of us running. But for me, the work is not new. This has been the work of my career. And I think you can see that reflected in all of the plans on the website. These aren't just things I believe in. These are things I've worked on. And so whether it's the opioid plan, the education plan, the climate policy plan, which is really important to me because, I think our climate is in crisis. We're running out of time to do something about it. But also we have this huge opportunity. We have this huge opportunity through the Green New Deal to recognize that we can create great jobs here in the 4th District. And I've been noticing that, in Foxborough, we're experimenting with a year-long pilot program for weekday commuter rail service. It shouldn't be an experiment. We should be doing this. We should be investing in high-speed rail. We should be investing in mass transit. We should be investing in South Coast Rail. And then we should be creating jobs in places like Fall River, in places like Somerset at the Brayton Point factory, in places like Foxborough. I was down touring at Teltron Engineering, owned by my friend Steve Johnson, right in Foxborough. And I saw Steve's workers who loved working there, but faced challenges sometimes in terms of being able to get to work. And I just think it would make so much more sense to invest in education, to invest in infrastructure, to invest in our future, which I think is the clean energy economy. And you'll see that reflected in all of the plans on the site. It's based on a real recognition of the level of challenges that we face.
Well, thank you very much. And then you have a video that you sent it to us. So let's watch the video.
We don't just need somebody who wants to have this job. We need somebody who is ready to do this job. And while the job would be new for all of us, the work is not new for me. I started out as a public school teacher teaching 4th grade in the South Bronx. I then went to work in the State House for Governor Deval Patrick. I went to the Obama White House where I was a speechwriter for the President and the First Lady. And then I ended up 2 weeks after I left the White House suing the White House. I was Maura Healey's senior advisor and assistant attorney general. I don't just want to stand up to Donald Trump. In the Attorney General's office, we took him and his administration on 50 times. I don't just care about the climate crisis. I helped investigate ExxonMobil and stand up to the Trump EPA. I don't just care about gun violence. I helped sue the NRA. And as we recover from this global pandemic, I worked with the pandemic response team in the Obama White House. I know what we have to do. I am ready on day one to fight for you and your family.
So thank you so much for sharing that video. So do you have a direct message to people who are Foxborough resident and watching this program today?
Yeah. So as you just saw in that video, I mean it when I say I am here to reach out to every single person in this district. The most important word in the title of United States Representative in Congress is representative. I am here to represent you. And at a moment of crisis for our country, a public health crisis, an economic crisis, maybe even a constitutional crisis, depending on how this president reacts this fall, I'm ready. I'm here. I have done this work. I am ready to go to Congress and fight for you and fight for your family. Please reach out in this campaign. Tell us what's on your mind. Tell us what you want me to get to work on. I tell people, I'm not just asking for your vote, although I am asking for your vote. And I'm not just asking for your support, although I am also asking for your support. Really, I'm just asking for you to believe again that we can get these things done, that you can have the government that you deserve, that you can have the representative you deserve. And I'm not just going to have 2 offices in this district, one in Newton and one in Attleboro. That's great. And I'm not just going to have a couple of coffees once every couple of years in the district. I'm actually going to bring the services of the office to you. We're looking into renting office space in city and town halls, including in Foxborough, so that once a month we can bring somebody from the office to you. Be there with our resources, with our staff, so that you can actually get the services you need without having to get in your car and drive somewhere. So I'm going to be a representative for every single person in this district.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that. And just before we close, if you could please share a little bit about your speechwriter opportunity for Deval Patrick and then President Obama and First Lady, and then that's the experience that you have as a speechwriter. How is it impacting for you to run Congress and then really represent represent us?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I never expected to be a speechwriter for Governor Patrick or for the Obamas. I was an intern for Governor Patrick when I was in college, and they needed somebody to write an op-ed. So I started out writing an op-ed, and they liked it fine. And so I got to keep writing things for him. I was his speechwriter in the State House for 3 years. And then, as you said, I was a speechwriter for President Obama and First Lady Obama in the White House for 2 years. And I think what I learned was that how we talk about issues matters. A good example here is healthcare. When you say to people, what do you think about Obamacare? About 40% of Americans liked Obamacare, at least they did when I was writing about it. When you said to people, what do you think about the Affordable Care Act? Well, all of a sudden, about 65% of Americans liked that, even though it's the same thing. And then when you would say, well, what do you think about the fact that, children should be able to stay on their parents' health insurance until they turn 26? What do you think about the fact that people with pre-existing health conditions should be able to get insurance and not go bankrupt when they get sick? 85%, Jerry, 85% of Americans would say, yeah, I think that makes sense. So I really think that the important thing I learned in speechwriting was, it's not that we are so divided on every issue. We're not. That's just not the case. What's true is that people have been good at dividing us. What's true is that if you speak to people about what you care about and why, you find out that the majority of Americans actually agree on so many of these issues. And here in the 4th Congressional District, I can't think of a better place to start doing that work, because we have a story to tell. That's what speechwriting at its core is all about. And whether it's the importance of investing in schools, the fact that Massachusetts has the lowest rate of gun violence in America, the fact that there are 110,000 clean energy jobs in Massachusetts alone, but only 50,000 coal jobs left in the whole country, you name it. These are stories that we should be telling right now. And why not send a speechwriter to tell those stories and fight for us in Congress?
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much again for coming to Around Foxborough today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to see you, Jerry.
Thank you. So thank you everyone for watching another episode of Around Foxborough. My name is Jerry Love. We have Paul Beck as our director and Michael Weber as our executive director. Our website is fcatv.org, and you can click on Around Foxborough if you had missed another episode of our wonderful show. Thank you very much again, and take care.
Thank you. Stay safe and healthy, everyone.